How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys, Alex and Ryan. So we're talking about the first base position today. And, of course, Hot Stove last night at 6 p.m., Jack Curry and some of the other Yankee reporters kind of spoke about the market, how things are materializing or really not materializing. The free agent market's really quiet right now. So they talked about some trade concepts and, we have some ideas of our own that we want to float your way and see what you guys think about them. But first and foremost, Curry did say that, he spoke to a lot of the Yankee, kind of higher uppers, and they all kind of feel as though Paul Goldschmidt could be the direction the Yankees go. Now, Paul Goldschmidt, not our favorite option, Ryan. It'd be kind of a killer to go out and get Paul Goldschmidt, who had 100 WRC plus and was 0 defensive runs saved, 0 outs above average, break-even defensive player. He doesn't really move the needle that much, and I know he won an MVP 3 years ago, but I think we're kind of past that. I think we're kind of at the point where Paul Goldschmidt is not an MVP. He is declining rapidly at 37 years. He'll be 38 next year. I don't really see a world where Paul Goldschmidt is a productive player, especially because he doesn't profile well for Yankee Stadium. So maybe he does. Maybe he slaps some balls the other way every now and then. He may be able to hit 20 plus homers, but again, that power is falling off. I don't want to take a gamble on this. I'd rather go for the trade route personally. But usually, when it comes to Jack Curry and that hot stove where there's smoke, there's usually fire. Do you think this is actually realistic? Maybe the Yankees are trying to pressure the market into bringing the costs down for some of these players. They're saying, you know what? If we bow out of the race, how many big spenders are there really going to be at first base and among the teams that need these players? So maybe they're trying to put pressure on Boris to lower the price, or other agents like Christian Walker maybe wants too much, or Pete Alonso wants too much. Maybe they're just trying to lessen the cost of other players. And I think that's a pretty decent strategy. Say, we like this guy, we'll sign him, we don't care. Unless you bring the price down where we can actually be in the realistic conversation. What do you think right now about Paul Goldschmidt? You think it's realistic? I think it's more of a pressure move personally, because I don't think he fits well for us.
Yeah, look, Paul Goldschmidt, and the conversations regarding Paul Goldschmidt, I think a lot of people are like, well, what if he could platoon with Ben Rice? And I think that it would be, it's hard for me to imagine that the Yankees sign Paul Goldschmidt, that Paul Goldschmidt takes a deal with the Yankees to be a weak side platoon. Now, what's a weak side platoon? It's referring to a platoon where it's a right-handed batter playing only against lefties, because lefties are a less common handedness to see than righties. So Goldschmidt would get less playing time than Ben Rice. Alex, I don't know about you. Again, I don't see them signing a first baseman to, especially like Paul Goldschmidt, and give him actual money that counts towards a luxury tax, to have them play 30% of the games and have stretches where he's not playing 5 days in a row or whatever it may be, while healthy, or while potentially, maybe, we'll see, effective. Now, last year at 100 WRC plus, and there have been a lot of conversations about, is he Rizzo washed? And on one hand, I think it's unfair to compare his WRC plus to Rizzo's in 2023, because the way Rizzo put up a 100 WRC plus was through soft contact, not great swing decisions. He was not a sustainable 100 WRC plus, whereas Paul Goldschmidt underperformed his expected numbers, hit the ball hard still. For the most part, he was solid. He hit 22 home runs. I get it. But a couple of concerns that stand out to me, and I'll talk about why these concerns matter so much. His swinging strike rate went up to 11.9%. His zone contact rates dropped. His chase rate spiked to 32.3%. His swing decisions got worse. Alex, typically when you enter your age 37 season, you don't get better at making contact. You don't get better at making swing decisions. You don't get better at hitting the ball hard. Now, his ability to hit the ball hard is still there. He still hits the ball ridiculously hard. But one of the telltale signs that a guy is aging and that he's on the decline is he's starting to sell out his contact rates to continue to make power. He has to, swing harder. He has to, pull the ball more in order to get any pop. Now, to Goldschmidt's credit, he does have some good opposite field power. He, in fact, he would have had 25 home runs if he played all of his games at Yankee Stadium. But the key for me here, he pulled 41.4% of his batted balls. That is the highest of his career since 2011, right? He pulled 33.1% of batted balls in 2023, 37.7% of batted balls in 2022. And again, as we mentioned, usually a hitter has to sell out for power when they start declining. When they're a power, or as they've come up, if they've come up a power hitter, they have to sell out for power. They cannot make contact consistently and hit the ball hard. They don't have the reaction time to do it. They have to make sacrifices. Usually that comes again with increased chase rates, increased whiff rates. Paul Goldschmidt, if you were going to diagnose Paul Goldschmidt as a player on the decline or a player ready to bounce back in 2025, you would diagnose him as a declining player, not as one on the upswing. So when that arrow is ticking down and you just had a 100 WRC plus, and you assume that player's either going to match that production or get worse, you're capping yourself at around a 100 WRC plus, if not significantly worse, if not a complete and utter fall off. I'm going to mention DJ LeMahieu because a lot of people have referenced Paul Goldschmidt's second half. DJ LeMahieu in the second half of 2023, remember, he was awesome. He brought his WRC plus to 99, I believe, a tick 1 point below Paul Goldschmidt's. If that 1 point matters that much to you, then so be it. But I remember he had a great second half. And then, Alex, how did DJ LeMahieu do in 2024? If I'm not mistaken, because, he had such a great second half. I mean, right, it didn't really translate. Second half WRC plus does not have a stronger correlation with next season WRC plus than first half WRC plus does. That applies for OPS, for slugging percentage, for average, for OBP. Whatever your full season numbers are is a better way to, or it's a better barometer to look at than just your first half or second half stats. Right, exactly. You want to use the full season. Things like, I understand you can get hot in the second half, you get hot in the first half. That doesn't always carry over. It's not, unless he made a legitimate adjustment, which, I didn't see a dramatic increase in contact rates. I did see a decrease in strikeout rate in the second half. Don't get me wrong. In the second half, 115 WRC plus, around a 22% strikeout rate. But again, the zone contact rates, they were solid. He was making enough zone contact. But I don't expect that skill to get better. I don't expect him to start making more contact with the Yankees next year. His chase rate did actually increase, not come down. It increased from in the second half as well. So what does that tell me? Again, he's selling out more. His swinging strike rate went up. He had to sell out more and more and more and more. He had to swing more. He had to force contact more. It's just the kind of approach that makes you go, right? It just makes you go, this guy's probably not going to play very well in 2025. Now, granted, the projections like him, he has a projected 111 WRC plus. That's a strong projection. I would take that at first base. But again, it's just about the confidence that you have that he'll hit that projection. I'm not very confident he will. I'm going 2 thumbs down on Paul Goldschmidt for his 2025 outlook, and that won't change if we sign him. And even if he's a left-handed platoon, which I doubt he will be, I think he'll start every day. 2 thumbs down. I'm 2 thumbs down. Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing that I think is, maybe it's not something people are talking about, is the fact that he's been in the league since 2011, Ryan. He has 23 games. He's barely 100 plate appearances of postseason experience, right? This guy is one of the most experienced players, but when it comes to playoff experience, he barely has any. It's kind of crazy, most of which came before 2020, right? He played 9 games in the playoffs in 2019. After that, he played 3 games in 2020, 1 game in 21, 2 games in 22, and hasn't been to the playoffs since then. So, we don't know what kind of player you're going to get. Even if you sign him, is he going to be a decent regular season regular season hitter, and then he goes against better pitching? Can he hold up in the playoffs? This is another kind of point of contention where, you go after a guy like Christian Walker, who's literally been to a World Series recently, or Pete Alonso is just won the NLCS. I know those are more expensive players, and obviously that's a little bit different, but you could go for a trade target like Josh Naylor, who's been in the playoffs many times recently with the Guardians, or a different option. So, or how about Nathaniel Lowe, who's just won a World Series 2 years ago. So, I do think that postseason experience is something the Yankees need to factor in a little bit, because that's what they're aiming for. They're aiming to go to a World Series, not win the regular season, right? Those 2 things are a bit different. So, Paul Goldschmidt, at this point in his career, against elite pitching in the playoffs, I don't really know how he's going to perform. I think that's something to consider. With that being said, I think this is more smoke than anything. I know, the saying, if there's smoke, there's fire, especially with the Yankee reporters saying it. But we've seen Yankee reporters, especially Jack Curry, he has influence to kind of tailor it to the players, tailor it to what the organization wants him to say. Keep in mind, the S Network is owned by the Yankees, right? They're giving Jack Curry specific things to say, specific things to talk about that are verified. Right? How about the fact, Ryan, that everybody was reporting that the Yankees were willing to trade Luis Gil, and then they come out and say that they weren't actually going to trade Luis Gil because they kind of wanted to protect, they probably wanted to protect his confidence and, make sure we weren't going to trade you. That was just all BS. So I think in this instance, Paul Goldschmidt is a way to pressure the first base market, because Cashman's Christian Walker wants too many years. Pete Alonso wants too much money. These guys want too much this. Even Carlos Santana, I mean, I've read that they even want higher asking prices right now. The market's cool because no one's matching those prices. So why not say, well, you know what? We'll just settle for a cheaper option. That's the experience. You know what I mean? And then that way the whole other options hopefully come down in price and say, well, if the Yankees bow out, that's one of the biggest players in that market that are willing to pay that top dollar for a first baseman. How many other teams, aside from the Mets, who may just bring back Alonso when all is said and done, are actually in the market for top flight first baseman? There's not that many. And the Yankees are the ones going to be paying the most for it. So if the Yankees are saying, we're fine just signing a veteran, like we don't care, that doesn't help the market at all. In fact, it hurts it, and that's exactly what Cashman's probably trying to do. Do you think that's a viable strategy? Wait it out, try to throw some things in, like we're fine just taking a cheaper option unless you want to match what we want, because we're not going to match what you want because there's not that much competition for those names. Do you think that's something that the Yankees could be trying to do?
You know, that's an interesting talking point. Like, are the Yankees trying to place pressure? Now, I think the one thing that's notable about what Jack Curry was talking about is that the market has stalled, right? The first base market has stalled. And I thought that was an indication that nothing was close with Goldschmidt, that nothing had been close with any first baseman, and that the Yankees are still kind of in the waiting phase. And that, you know, there's going to be, I think that the test for Yankee fans over the next few weeks will be whether we can handle, you know, the lull of the offseason, the dead of the winter, the period where it's just weird and you know, there's nothing going on, and you know, players aren't going anywhere and teams are standing firm, right? The premier free agents are mostly off the board. The Yankees really wanted Max Fried. His market moved fast. You know, the Yankees really wanted Juan Soto. The Mets really wanted Juan Soto. His market moved fast, right? You know, not saying the Yankees don't really want Christian Walker, but there are ways and avenues to build a competitive team, and there are legitimate flaws in Walker's game that you can say, hey, I'm willing to do something else instead of signing Christian Walker, notably his advanced age, and then also, of course, the qualifying offer that comes with Walker and the high price point. Even if you get him on a deal you want, I mean, you know, again, I have it on good information that the Yankees are willing to offer a 3-year deal, and that money was going to be north of $20 million AAV. When you sit at $289 in terms of your luxury tax payroll, you're going to jump up to $309 million. You're going to be taxed 100% on that $8 million that you're over the luxury tax on. So, I mean, Alex, like that's significant, right? You lose draft picks. You're in the fourth threshold now for a player. You know, now you're going to lose draft picks. You're going to lose 2 draft picks if you sign up on a qualifying offer next year. Good luck trying to sign Kyle Tucker. Not that it affects your ability to sign Kyle Tucker, but like, good luck trying to pluck into, like, I hear so many people going, well, you punt for next year's free agency. Yeah, you're going to punt for next year's free agency with Aaron Judge at 33 and Garrett Cole at 34. And also, yeah, the big thing here is that you're going to lose you're going to lose between 2 and 4 draft picks trying to go and get big time free agents in the 2025 free agent class. Maybe Vlad gets traded and there's no QO attached to him. But Alex, you see the Yankees paying $500 million for a first baseman? I sure as shit don't. You know, I kind of wouldn't either. Like, he's going to be a DH.
I'll throw something else in there as well
up?
that I think is kind of an underrated talking point. The Yankees want to get Kyle Tucker. They're going to need those draft picks next year.
Yeah, if you want to,
he's gonna get hit with the QO for sure. So you kind of we're gonna give up all these draft picks. You already gave up some for Max Fried. You're gonna give up some for Christian Walker and Kyle Tucker. No,
you're gonna have 4. You're gonna lose 4 of your first 6 picks to sign Walker. You're gonna have, and then if you sign Tucker the year after, you're gonna lose 2 more picks. The Yankees, remember, lost 2 picks.
That's how you kill a farm system.
You know, I'll say this right now: the Yankees' most underwhelming draft in the last 4 years is probably so far the 2023 draft. That draft class, no disrespect to the players in that draft class, I think some of them, like George Lombard Jr., could have a big year. Kate Smith, you know, I was very impressed with what he did. You know, they imported Ben Shields as a UDFA, an undrafted free agent. But among their draft picks, they kind of bombed the draft. They didn't do very well in the draft. Kyle Carr has not performed to the way I thought he would. Lombard Jr. was drafted ahead of Aiden Miller. Aiden Miller is a far better prospect right now, and he would have, if the Yankees had Aiden Miller, they would have Kyle Tucker.
Right.
You know, I'd say that the Astros might be unwilling to be Jim Crane may not have wanted to make that deal with the Yankees. I think there would have been a threshold where they'd be like, damn, you have to make this deal.
What's the age difference there? Lombard's really young, isn't he?
Yeah, he's young. I think Lombard Jr. can be a good prospect, but as of right now,
wondering.
Aiden Miller is also a teen, also about a year older and is a better player, right? Yeah. Kyle Carr, again, he was awful in high A, and he has serious velocity and command issues and some health concerns, right? I could go down the list of the draft picks they made in 2023, you know, and you might go, well, isn't that harsh to judge it after a year? And yeah, it is kind of harsh to judge it after a year, but I can also say that the Yankees didn't have a second round pick that year, so that makes it really freaking hard to have a good draft when you don't have your second round pick. They didn't have a 5th round pick. That makes it equally as hard, right? Their top 5 picks Dude, they had a first-round pick, third-round pick, fourth-round pick. They had 2 picks in the top 100, 1 pick in the top 50, 3 picks in the top 150, 4
Not
picks
good.
in the top 100. That's not like you can't get good players doing that. I can point to, look, there's some guys in this draft class I'm excited about. Whatchamacallit, Brian Hendry, he throws really hard. He was a 10th round pick, but he has injury concerns. Dude, there in this draft class, there may be, and I'm saying maybe, I'm being optimistic here, there may be 1 or 2 major leaguers here. Maybe. Right? And that's not great. And it's not the Yankees' fault. They just didn't have a second. And let me give you some notable second-round picks that the Yankees have had in recent memory. Drew Thorpe was a second-round pick, helped them get Juan Soto. Josh Smith was a second-round pick, helped them in the Joey Gallo deal. I know Joey Gallo didn't pan out, but still, he's a second-round pick who helped the Yankees. When you look at the Yankees 2021 draft class, I believe their second-round pick, I could be wrong on this, their second-round pick was also a part of a big trade. I know in the 8th round they selected Will Warren that year. We'll see what he becomes. Brendan Beck, that was kind of a bust of a move. He kept getting hurt. But Brock Selvage was selected in the 3rd round. He's one of their better prospects. Cooper Bauman selected in the 4th round, a top 150 pick, someone who the Yankees are able to flip for. Frankie Montas, Richard Fitz, he's a big leaguer. He was traded for Alex Verdugo. Again, the move didn't work out, but he was a player that's he's going to be a major leaguer, and I think he'll be a major leaguer for a long time. You have Benjamin Cowles, that helped you get Mark Leiter Jr., Jack Neely, also selected in the round right after, helped you get, Mark Leiter Jr. You can say all you want about Mark Leiter Jr. in the regular season. Mark Leiter Jr. helped the Yankees get to the World Series. That's all I care about. That's all I judge you on. You helped me get to the World Series. That's all I care about. Hope you have a better 2025. Ben Rice, 12th round pick. So, like, all these picks matter, dude. These picks matter. They just do. What if Ben Rice helps you get Nathaniel Lowe? What are we going to sit back and say? People are going to be like, oh, that's cool, we got Nathaniel Lowe, but no one's going to give them credit for, saying we took a 12th round pick and we made them a headliner in a deal that helped us get a really good player. So these draft picks do matter. I'm going to also point to the Houston Astros. I'm not saying, you can have your own opinions and how the punishment, how severe it was, whether it was enough, but losing draft picks is killing them. They lost so many picks from that scandal. They can't replenish their farm. They can't just say, we're going to let Kyle Tucker play out the year and then lose him and get the qualifying offer benefits. We'll get a pick for him. They can't do that. They have to trade him because they have to get players back that are going to boost their farm system. They can't afford to spend 10-year deals. They don't do that. They limit it to 6-year deals. How many star free agents can you get on a deal that's less than 7 years in this market? Max Fried signed an 8-year deal. Corbin Burns may sign a 9-year deal. Garrett Cole signed a 9-year deal. Even Carlos Correa, off of his injury, signed a 6-year deal that has options that can vest to make it a 10-year deal. Corey Seager, 10-year deal. I mean, Alex, name one star player you can think of where it's like, yeah, this is a 6 or less year player in this economy. The Yankees have the luxury of having money and all that, but what you also don't want are bad contracts. Stroman's killing the Yankees right now. That contract's a killer. Imagine if the Yankees could snap
dead
DJ
money
LeMahieu.
for Rizzo and Hicks.
I would also say this too, and it comes to LeMahieu and Peraza. Would you not rather have Peraza on the bench because he can at least run? Instead of LeMahieu, you make your team marginally worse. And if you look at what Peraza did last year against lefties, he kind of hit them pretty hard. Like, Peraza has a role, I think, as like a, can play against lefties occasionally, give a guy a day off, that kind of stuff.
He's just cheap.
Right.
Most of all,
Cabrera hits righties and Peraza hits lefties. You kind of can have a platoon go in there. You can't do that because you have DJ on your team and you're going to have to roster him because if you cut him, you're paying him all that money to not be on the team. And perhaps that's more productive.
It might be.
It might
be more useful.
I would DFA LeMahieu, but, I get that they're not going to do that.
That roster spot might be more useful.
Right, yeah, I agree. But, I guess my point more so here is that with Walker, with all these guys, everyone talks about these draft picks like it's just like, oh, the Yankees don't care about winning this year. That's not the case. But Paul Goldschmidt is not the guy I'd look at as the pivot for that. I would look at, and we're going to talk, and I wanted to kind of segue to this player because I know you wrote about him this morning, and we've talked about him on the podcast before. LaMonte Wade Jr., who is a 1-year player, is on San Francisco Giants, is on the trade block, is left-handed, and he kills 2 birds with 1 stone. Alex, what makes LaMonte Wade Jr. such an attractive option for the Yankees?
Well, LaMonte Wade Jr., I mean, you've mentioned his name many times in the past, and I think we're coming full circle right now and saying the Yankees haven't had many, like, we haven't heard of any connections to LaMonte Wade Jr., but I don't know why. He kind of is a perfect fit for the Yankees. He hits the ball hard. He pulls it to right field. He would have hit more home runs in the Bronx than in San Francisco. This is a player who would be a perfect leadoff solution. You, like you said, kill two birds with one stone. He hit 260 last year with a 380 OBP. He ranked in the 99th percentile in walk rate at 15.5%. Of his 8 home runs, he would have hit 11 in 2023. He hit 17 home runs, would have been 20 in the Bronx. Had a 119 WRC plus last year. I mean, listen, he's more of a contact guy, but if you asked him, I mean, what does he rank in the 96th percentile launch angle sweet spot? When he does make good contact, that launch angle does combine with a perfect connection, and he can launch balls into the outfield over the fence. Last year, his launch angle was only 12.9 degrees. That's almost a 5-degree decrease compared to 23. If they got his launch angle a bit back up to around the 17, 18-degree range, he's going to mash 20-plus homers in the Bronx. And that's as a leadoff hitter who gets on base at a 38% clip. You're looking at a guy that could be a 130 WRC plus hitter, and he's about an average defender. And I'm okay with that because if you get Josh Naylor, he's one of the worst defensive first basemen you can get. You go get one of these other options on the trade market. I know that Nathaniel Lowe, not the best defender in the world, a good offensive piece, but Wade Jr. is fine. Like, he's an average player defensively, but offensively, he just feels like a perfect fit for the Yankees, and he's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. The best part about it is that he's going into the final year of arbitration where he's going to make less than $5 million projected. They're saying projected $4.7 million, which is a literal steal of a contract for 1 year of rental. And you could extend a player like this. He's 30 years old. If you're going to give Paul Goldschmidt $15 million a year, which is probably where it ends up being, like $10 to $15 million a year, or you're going to give somebody else like Christian Walker $20 million a year at 33, why not just trade for LaMonte Wade Jr., 1 year of less sub $5 million pay, and then extend him. And you're probably going to have to pay the same amount as Christian Walker. And, I think you're getting a perfect fit for Yankee Stadium. You're getting a future leadoff hitter who's going to get on base at a high clip. He's going to hit more home runs than expected. And he's a perfect fit ahead of Aaron Judge. A guy that gets on base, can hit obviously allow Aaron Judge to maximize his home runs. We don't want solo shots. We want 2-run homers. And LaMonte Wade Jr. offers that possibility. So, I know you're a big fan of him, Ryan. Why do you like him? I think he's a good fit for the Yankees. I don't know why he hasn't been connected to us more.
So the way I look at it with LaMonte Wade Jr. is that my only concern with him is that his numbers against lefties the last 2 years won't hold up because he's gotten better against left-handed pitching over the last 2 years. And you're always concerned about, hey, how is this skill gonna progress moving forward, right? He has been awesome for the Giants for the last 2 years as a table setter. He had a really good 2021 season. Took a step back in 2022, completely bounced back because, of course, he did. He's a stud. He, as you mentioned, he hits the ball hard. He's someone who would provide a lot of value to the top of the lineup. He kills 2 birds with 1 stone. That's important. And when you look at his home runs, right, he would have had 3 more home runs that he played all of his home games at Yankee Stadium compared to what he did at home this past season. And San Francisco, not to say that San Francisco is the worst place ever to hit. Actually, it is kind of what I'm implying. It is the worst place you could possibly try to hit as a power hitter if you're trying to hit for any power. And I think that's affected LaMonte Wade Jr.'s swing. He's not going to just try to pull the ball in the air because dead pulling the ball, you right field short there compared to left field or center field. But right field is tall, right? You have to hit it well over that fence. So I do think that plays a role in for lack of better terms, the overall aggression to pull the ball in the air and chase aggressively, trying to chase pulled fly balls. He had solid numbers at home, but he only hit 2 home runs at home, right? He hit this past season 4 home runs. 6 of his home runs came on the road. 6 of his home runs came on the road. He played most of his games, and now he did play, a little bit more games on the road than at home, but it's not enough to say that like he should hit 3 times more home runs on the road. Would he maybe hit? If you add 3 more home runs, if he hits in the span of a 396 play appearance sample size, which is about 100 games-ish. I could be mistaken. Yeah, it's 117 games. If he had hit 11 home runs over 117 games, maybe he gets closer with the Yankees like that 15 to 16 range. Yeah, I'll take it, right? Like, I'll take 15, 16 home runs out of my leadoff hitter with a 380 OBP. that's a high-level leadoff hitter. That is, as you mentioned, the perfect way to start the game. You've got him leading off. If pitchers are stupid enough to give him a pitch over the middle of the plate for him to pull with his pop and launch that, that sugar honey iced tea over the fence, so be it. Let that pitcher be stupid enough to think they could sneak 90 by LaMonte Wade Jr. And, honestly, he's also dope as hell. Like, have you seen some of his bat drops? You got late night Lamont. That dude, he's got some sick nicknames going for him too.
Some aura, man.
Yeah, like, legitimately speaking though, like, from a data perspective, he makes a lot of sense for the Yankees. He has displayed home run power in the past. I know this past season was a down year for his power, but I also say it was a weird year. He hit the ball way better this year.
He didn't play that much. He played 117 games.
But I also think he underperformed in terms of his power. Like,
right.
I think he should have hit for more power than he actually did. I think that if he played at Yankee Stadium in 2023, by the way, he would have hit 20 home runs instead of 17.
Significantly, 5 degrees. That impacts things.
But maybe even then, like, he's the kind of hitter where if you want to push him more towards hitting for some pop, the pop is there. If you want to push him more towards that line drive approach, focus on that hit tool, you can also do that. There are a lot of avenues for LaMonte Wade Jr. to provide, but the main skill is OBP. There's a decent amount of strikeout deterrence here. His contact rates aren't elite, but they're solid enough. You'll live with them. It's a 22% strikeout rate. You'll take it. And again, like, he's just when he puts the ball in play, he gets a lot of really good contact. And when he gets a pitch out of the zone, he doesn't chase. That's exactly what you want at first base. You're not getting a great athlete, I'd say. He's not a great base runner. Like, he's not fast or whatever, but I know that a lot of people have mentioned that, and my response to that at first base is always, which first baseman do you want that can run? Because if you want a first baseman who can run, that's like an oxymoron. It's like saying you want a defensive tackle who's slim. You're like, well, what? What do you want? A what?
Yep.
You want?
You gotta be able to block the balls at first base.
I want a cheeseburger without cheese. Like, what? Dude, what are we talking about? What are we saying? Like, first baseman. If athletic first baseman, like, first off, they're athletes. He's a solid defensive player. He is an athlete. Let's also clarify that he's a baseball player. He's an athlete. I find it, like, when people are like, Christian Walker, I want a better athlete than that. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's a Gold Glover. What are you talking? Who are you to say he's not a good athlete? What are we talking about? You got, like, a guy who's a dude who's, like, hasn't picked up a baseball or any sporting equipment in 15 years going, this guy isn't athletic. You're like, what the hell are you talking about? These are athletes. What are we talking about? He's not fast, sure, but he's an athlete. Like, and you're not getting a fast first baseman. It's just not happening.
No, it's not happening.
Unless you're going to sacrifice offense, or you're going to put Belly at first, which I think Bellinger at first, I think because of the price of the first base market, you have to explore the outfield market, right? Like, you have to. I've said I don't really want to play Bellinger at first, not because of his defense, more so because I think you get more value out of him playing the outfield.
Yes,
but
defensively,
let's be honest,
for sure.
Right, but let's be honest, right? If an outfielder who's better offensively for the Yankees than a first baseman exists, yeah, I'm going after that outfielder. I am. Like, I'll live with I didn't get as much of out, and even then, I think I've overplayed I think I've understated how likely it is Bellinger opts out. What would it take for him not to opt out? Like, how bad? If he repeats last year, he's opting out, right? And if he opts in, I'm kind of fine with it. If he is as good as he was last year, or he lives up to his projections, like a 110 WRC plus hitter, and he goes, yeah, I'll stay. Be like, okay, okay.
Yeah,
like,
he's the type of guy that gets hot and, like, absolutely destroys baseballs for like a month.
He's a streaky hitter. It's true. Yeah.
He's streaky, but, like, what baseball player isn't streaky? Even Soto was hitting like 213 the last, like, month of the season. So, like, it happens to the best of them. Obviously, guys like Soto don't go through streaks. They break out of them pretty quickly. But some other things I like about LaMonte Wade Jr. is that he was really productive with runners in scoring position last year. Hit 290, 427 OBP. Again, 371 slugging, which we think can increase. But this is a guy who was really good in critical situations, and that does bode well for the bottom half of the Yankee lineup that is expected to get a nice little jolt. If Volpe starts to pick things up and gets a little bit more consistent, Jason Dominguez, we're talking about Jason Dominguez hitting like 8 or 9 right now. Like, we know Jason Dominguez can mash. Like, we know he can do some special things. Yeah. So, LaMonte Wade Jr. could do, and especially with a guy like Jason who can run the bases, not a bad option. But in addition to that, LaMonte Wade Jr., if you don't want to lead him off, he most of his reps came batting second or third last year for the Giants. Now, we know that Judge probably bats second because you want your best hitter there. But if LaMonte Wade Jr. batted third, he hit 291 with a 378 OBP batting third last year for the Giants. So there is some lineup versatility with him as well. Anywhere in that top 3, you're getting really nice value.
Yeah. Are you used to talking about good players in the Giants? Like, is this new for you? Like, is this kind of like difficult? Like, is this a new, like?
I don't want to talk. Honestly,
I'm sorry.
I'm
also
recreating the
fan.
association.
This is like a Jets fan here, but
I'm recreating the association between Giants and bad. It's more of a universe thing. I'm trying to spark progress. And
Alex even like PTSD mentioning the Giants on a podcast. He's like,
I'm way past PTSD. I wake up screaming like, Tim Boy, you fucking blow. Like those are my dreams now.
Yeah. But no, in all seriousness, like LaMonte Wade Jr., like he's obviously like an upgrade, and we're talking about first base, like. I don't know, and I hear this argument about Goldschmidt, and I think it's relevant. Like, I agree with this point. The Yankees were so bad at first base that getting average play would be a huge step up. I just don't think Goldschmidt's going to provide average play. That's kind of it's not that I think Goldschmidt is bad if he's a 105. It's not that I'll be like, damn it, we signed a 110 WRC plus hitter. If he lives up to his projections, I'd be like, oh no, well yeah, I 100% take that. 1000% would take that. I just doubt he will. But as it pertains to LaMonte Wade Jr., I do think he'll live up to his projections. He has some pretty strong projections, and the Yankees at first base last year, this like always kind of gets a kick out of me. The Yankees had a negative
WAR,
negative 1.1 WAR at first base with a 76 WRC plus. They had the lowest OPS at first base of any team in baseball by a significant margin.
John Birdie playing meaningful games at first base
in the playoffs.
Yeah, like, and you're gonna say, and people are gonna sit here and tell me, not people, but the Yankees are gonna hear and spew narratives like they want Paul Goldschmidt, who's falling off an absolute cliff right now. Like, that's the most wayward, and I get we're kind of like working against the Yankees. I do think this is all smoke and mirrors. I do think that they're trying to suppress the market and trying to force the hand of guys like Walker, Alonso to lower their price tags. And even Carlos Santana. I would take Carlos Santana over Paul Goldschmidt because
I would too. He was better against lefties too. He had like a 900 OPS against lefties. And the other thing,
he was a 14 outs above average last year, man. That's no joke.
Yesterday when we talked about Ha-Sung Kim, we talked about like the aspect of like I can provide value without hitting, so that when I'm slumping, I'm still a productive player. Like, I don't get that vibe with Goldschmidt because I don't think the glove is there anymore. And again, the emphasis on like how bad the Yankees have been at first base for the last 2 years. The Yankees have the worst OPS at first base for the last 2 seasons at 653. They're tied for the second worst WRC plus, only ahead of the Colorado Rockies at 84. So when you're only better at the Rockies at something, you know you're really screwed. The Yankees have a negative 0.8 WAR at the position over the last 2 years. They have just 37 home runs at first base. 37 home runs. That's crazy. And then even defensively, it's not like the Yankees have been running out, stalwarts defensively at first, where like you'd be like, all right, at least you're getting that production. The Yankees at first base, it's 3 defensive runs saved, 2 outs above average. It's kind of middle of the pack. They're good enough there. They're not dominant at the position. If you look at who's number one, it's the Diamondbacks. I wonder why they're number one. I wonder why, right? But, you want to either A, be getting good defensive production at first base with a solid enough bat. That's Carlos Santana. Or you want to get decent enough defensive production with a consistently productive bat. I think that fits the LaMonte Wade Jr. mold more. The big question, though, is kind of like, it just kind of all hinges on what they do at second base too, right? If you get Paul Goldschmidt and then somehow like you're like, all right, now we're signing Alex Bregman, I'd be like, well, I didn't expect that, but yeah, I mean, I'd rather have Alex Bregman than Pete Alonso, right? You know what I mean? Right?
Yeah.
Like I understand, but I'd also sit back and say 6 years, 7 years, you know what I mean? You start wondering, but you're not gonna. That's not happening. The Yankees aren't going to sign Alex Bregman. I don't think that's going to happen.
We're talking about bad contracts that are not going to be bad. They're going to be catastrophic.
And even if you think, but like, even if you think it's a good, like, it's not happening. Like, my point more so is like the big move. You can say the Yankees. You can say the Yankees can get are getting like a Carlos Santana, let's say, because it allows them to get max. It would allow them to afford Max Fried. Sure,
I get that. Overpay for Ha-Sung Kim a little bit just to trade for a first baseman, even if it's 1 year of control and you extend that first baseman. Like you could. I mean, look, Ha-Sung Kim. I know he's primary shortstop, like as you said yesterday, but if you could overpay slightly to get him just to convince him to play second base on a World Series contender, by the way, it's not like he's going to the White Sox to play shortstop.
Right.
He's coming to a World Series contender to be a winner in an international market. Like, you maybe could convince him that. I don't know. Like, there are ways for the Yankees to get better. They're clearly waiting and being patient. They're clearly trying to force the market into a corner in the first base situation. But I think they end up trading for someone personally. I just don't think, like, there's better trade options. And look, well, we haven't even talked about this. What are you willing to give up for LaMonte Wade Jr.? Because that's the question that kind of this whole argument's predicated on?
I think that I'm not saying that like I'm fully against trading Rice for LaMonte Wade Jr., but I think trading Rice for 1 year of LaMonte Wade Jr. is kind of a tough ask of the Yankees, who do like Rice.
Yep.
You could say, well, they like Durbin, yeah, and then they traded him for Devin Williams. Like, it's not like they traded him for me, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like they traded him for like, that's like they didn't trade him for like crap, and that's important. Like, you didn't just trade a guy for crap. You traded him for like one of the best players at the position in the bullpen. And then, I also want to mention when it comes to LaMonte Wade Jr. and the Giants needs, right? We always talk about what it seems needs are, and that's where you match up in a deal. That's why I talk about Nate Lowe so much. The Yankees and the Texas Rangers do match up decently well. What do the Giants need? The Giants are good at catcher because of Patrick Bailey. LaMonte Wade Jr. removing him from first base would hurt their first base position group. Maybe they do want Ben Rice because of that. I don't know who would play first base if they move LaMonte Wade Jr., which is where I have where I'm kind of confused as to what they're doing, considering they're trying to add. They do have Tyler Fitzgerald to play second base. He had a really good 2024 season, although I doubt he's going to sustain that in 2025. They need some help maybe up the middle. Infield prospect. I thought Durbin would have enticed them. He's no longer going to entice them. I don't think Peraza's getting this deal done. They need bullpen help. Their bullpen is a little bit of a question mark. Could Clayton Beeter be someone who entices them? We'll see. But the Yankees, I think that they have enough needs that the Yankees can just offer them players that are of note. Whether it's a Rafael Flores, who's the 10th ranked prospect in the Yankee organization according to Baseball America. Maybe you do Rafael Flores for LaMonte Wade Jr. You trade a top 10 prospect for 1 year of a good first baseman. Maybe that's a little much, but that's just an example. He's also in Double-A. I think that entices a team like the Giants. Maybe Rock Selvage. Selvage is someone from the West Coast. He grew up in Arizona. Left-handed pitcher. Had a solid year in Double-A. Not a great one. Ended the season with injury, but has lots of upside and projectability. Elmer Rodriguez Cruz, who the Yankees acquired for Carlos Narvaez. Really good, right-handed pitching prospect. He saw an uptick in velocity this past season, hit 99 on the radar gun, sits 95, 96. That's gas. That's straight smoke. That's what people call that's fuego, right? That's beautiful stuff right there. He's got gasoline on his fastball. But he's an enticing player as well, I imagine, in the deal because he's a young projectable pitcher. I wonder if that's kind of the mold of what the Giants would be looking for. Overall, though, I mean, I don't know. I think the Yankees and Giants, not that they match up well in the deal, but again, the Giants just have so many needs. It's like, take whatever, right? Take whatever you can get at that point. So, I wonder what if, again, we talked about this before, maybe it's a more expansive trade. Yankees trade a prospect, Stroman, get Wade, Brett Rogers back. It basically offsets the money because $4 million plus $11 million is $15 million. And $15 million towards the luxury tax. Subtract that from Stroman. The Giants will be adding $3 million in payroll to add a starting pitcher. My only thing that I mentioned on the live stream yesterday that does kind of concern me is that if you do that and you're the Giants, you have Corbin Burns who you may add onto your roster. Do you really have the rotation spots? We'll see. I'm not 100% sure if that would work, but there are definitely avenues for the Yankees to acquire someone like LaMonte Wade Jr. without really burning their farm system. So
yeah. I mean, listen. Also, if you're Corbin Burns and you have a couple people in the running for that contract, you're going to go to the better team. You know what I mean? And right now, as you said, the Giants have a lot of needs. So nobody really knows if they're going to be super.
Yeah, and their competitors, the Blue Jays. And I'm going to tell you one thing. I don't think Corbin Burns. Yeah, he's not going to the Blue Jays. I feel like. I feel like he'll go to the Giants. He's a West Coast guy, anyways.
Okay, that makes sense then.
I could be so wrong, right? But you mean to tell me that? It's kind of funny too. It's like we're talking about winning, and it's like the Giants and the Blue Jays, and it's like
crazy,
right? Like whole lot of mid. That's
where the market's going though, and that's why the Yankees are trying to wait out the first base market because they know the competitors that will pay are slim. So, we'll see how things materialize moving forward for this first base market. But Paul Goldschmidt, to me, smoke and mirrors. Personally, that's how I feel. You guys may feel differently. I'm always happy to hear your thoughts in the YouTube comments. But there's options here, guys. Like this whole situation is unfolding in real time. It's quiet, but this is where the Yankees kind of do their due diligence and do their research and see okay, where can we get value? We haven't heard LaMonte Wade Jr.'s name pop up that much. Jeff Passan said in his article yesterday that Wade is available though. So if that's the case, if Wade is available, why aren't the like why I wouldn't be surprised if like out of nowhere the Yankees just like made a deal. You know what I mean? Out of nowhere, like nobody was talking about it. Because that's what we've gotten used to that strategy from the Yankees. Like we're so focused on like this guy, and then suddenly we have Devin Williams. You know, we're so focused on this guy, and then suddenly we have Alex Verdugo. I'm like, what the hell's going on here?
Exactly. Things can happen, but I think, at the end of the day, what's nice about the first base market is that, the whatchamacallit, the first base market, we can list off players who we would be okay with, right? Or we'd be happy with. Nate Lowe, Yandy Diaz. Love Yandy.
Love Yandy.
Yeah. LaMonte Wade Jr., Christian Walker, Carlos Santana. That's 5 players right there. I think I'd live with Josh Naylor, right? I'd make it. I'd be happy. I'd
you would mash.
The defense. He's someone who's and I don't say this to like be an a-hole. I say this just out of like genuine baseball. Like this is just straight baseball talk. The weight gain is a little concerning for, like, is it going to continue to balloon? But, the other thing you have to worry about.
It's only a 1-year rental, right?
Right. It's the other thing. Like, how much weight can you reasonably gain between 2024 and 2025, right? Like, and also, it's not like Josh Naylor's, like, a known clubhouse cancer or anything like that. It's like he has, like, work ethic issues.
He gets hyped.
I would be, I would be shocked if, like, the guy's completely unplayable in 2025. So, again, I only mentioned that to say the defense, like, is the defense from, is his good OAA numbers from, like, 2022, 2023. We saw a big decline in DRS last year. Is that a better indication of defensive play? We'll see. But, yes, as you mentioned, he mashes. That's 6 players. That's 6 players right there that we'd be
you
like.
end up with one of those guys, you're fine.
And you can reasonably acquire any of those 6 players. And we're like, if you get one of those 6 players,
just don't get Paul Goldschmidt. Don't get Paul Goldschmidt.
It's kind of crazy because it's like there are 6 players with so many green flags, and the red flags are
Paul
either
Goldschmidt.
right. I get it. Santana's also old. Walker's also kind of old, but like Walker just came off of a really good year. Santana just came off a pretty good year.
Cheap as hell too, Santana.
Goldschmidt is coming off of a year where everything declined again. And he's going to turn 30. Oh, he's already 37. He's going to turn 38 next September. If you want to sell me the idea that this guy, right, if you want to sell me the idea that this guy's skills are going to get better next year, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's a risky bet to take. And it's not a likely bet. It's not a bet you're going to usually win. That's fine. I would love for the Yankees to sign Paul Goldschmidt, for me to be wrong, for him to put up a 120 WRC plus, because that would make the team better, right? I would love for that to happen. Or if they sign Paul Goldschmidt, he's underwhelming, and then they're so right about Ben Rice, he becomes a stud. You have a young first baseman for the future. I'd love either of those outcomes. But, like, you're banking on that coming to fruition. You know what I mean? So, like, that's kind of where I feel like right now. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. No, I agree with you. I mean, there's 6 good options, and the Yankees are going to pick the worst one. Let's be honest. We know they're not that dumb. I mean, we know they're not that incompetent. They've been making really good moves. Why would they make the wrong one at this point in time, as Josh Donaldson written all over it, minus all the other extracurriculars. But, I do think that Goldschmidt was once a great player, but as you said, consistently dropping off, consistently seeing, and it's not just marginal drop-offs. They're like freaking tsunami drop-offs, you know what I mean? They're like rumblings, like tectonic plate shattering.
Yeah, you go from like playable to like
MVP
a 70
to
WRC
literally
plus.
Average in 2 years.
And
that's crazy.
When we look at the kind of players that happens to, like, the year after the average season is never a good one. Josh Donaldson, it was like, well, he was like close to average. What if, like, look at his new swing in spring training, and then he sucked and he was awful. And then it's like, look at the second half. Look how good he was in the second half. He made so much, and then he was awful. He was terrible. They put him on the Phantom IL. He sucked.
We're talking about a guy that had a 175 WRC plus, 6.8 WAR in 2022, and this past year he hit a 100 WRC plus and a 1.1 WAR. This is a different player. If the Yankees take a shot on this, it's because they have reason to believe that his numbers can bounce back, but there is nothing that we can see in his numbers that suggests that's going to happen. The only thing that he does do well is he stays healthy. That's about it.
Hard. He hits the ball hard enough where, like, there's again a reasonable outcome where, maybe that 25 expected home runs and the bad home numbers, maybe it all just gels into this. Oh my God, Paul Goldschmidt has 25 home runs and has a 110 WRC plus for the Yankees next year, and we're like, yes, 2 thumbs up, Paul Goldschmidt, awesome signing.
He sacrificed it though. His strikeout rate increased by 3%, and his walk rate dropped by his walk rate dropped by 5%.
And
he's now, as you said,
increased.
The best way that you said it earlier, he's selling out for power now, and that is exactly what we watched Josh Donaldson do. His strikeout rate just absolutely skyrocketed. His walk rate plummeted, and he was just trying to hit the crap out of the ball. And that leads to inefficiency.
when you're not as sharp, and people will go like, I obviously love hitting for power, like I love power hitters, and people may go, well, why are you talking down on a player who's trying to hit for more power? Because it's not because they're doing it to improve their game. They're doing it because they have to do it. It is for survival in the league. It is not for improvement. It is because they don't have the bat speed they used to have. It's because they don't have the plate recognition they used to have. It's because their skills are degrading and they have to make up for it by sacrificing other tools. They cannot remain an all-around hitter. Paul Goldschmidt is not the low strikeout, high power hitter he was before with a good walk rate. He is a high chase, right-handed pull hitter who, needs a shorter left field, and that profile is not. That's like you're getting close to Nolan Arenado profile territory.
Maybe. He'd be for the Astros.
Right. Granted, again, I am a big believer that Paul Goldschmidt with the Astros, you mentioned, would be a good fit. I'm a believer that Paul Goldschmidt in a platoon would work because he does actually kill left-handed pitching.
Too expensive though for a platoon. It's like,
exactly.
Why?
He's looking for a starting job. I don't think it's there with the Yankees. I could be wrong. He could be good with the Yankees. The projections could be right. They like him more than Carlos Santana for projections. I could be so wrong, and I'd love to be wrong if we sign him. I would. I think that's like, I can see where he could be better in 2025. I just my belief is that when I look at his profile, I don't believe that that's going to outweigh the negatives that he has the negative trends he's built up, and I don't really buy into that second half the way I think most people do. I think most people are like, well, look at the second half. It was really good. I'm like, I look at it and I say, and he had to keep pulling more, and whiffing more and chasing more, and if he has to keep doing that more and more and more and more, what's gonna happen next year? What's the chaser gonna be? And it's gonna go from like what the 40th percentile to the 20th percentile. You've got a kind of a useless hitter if they can't walk, they can't make contact, and their power is just good, not dominant. So
yeah, I mean, listen, you said like Carlos Santana has a 105 WRC plus projection next year. Let's say that's 6% worse than Goldschmidt, but 10 million cheaper. So like,
or even like
there's
how
a conversation.
Much do you buy into his projection? Like, it's also like, how much do you buy into the projection? How much do you believe in that projection to be correct? And the tricky thing I think people forget about free agents is that free agents projections is that not all projections value players the same. For example, Goldschmidt has a good projection on Steamer and depth charts and all that stuff. But what is Zips going to think of him, right? So Zips is another Fangraphs projection. What should we just ignore the ones that say this player is bad and like the ones that say this player is good? Should we just go based off of what suits our beliefs the most? I feel like that's a limited view of projections. I think that leaves you very limited in how you can analyze the game and analyze where hitters are going moving forward. So, we have to take in all the information we can. Again, not sure Paul Goldschmidt's projections and Zips are going to be as favorable. And if they're not as favorable, right, then you have data that says you shouldn't sign them. So,
yeah,
I don't know. Well, that's where I'm at.
I'll finish it with this, guys. We're talking about a player that has lost 75 WRC plus in 2 years. That's a catastrophic fall off. That is a clear decline. You don't see players at 37 drop 75% in production and then bounce back up very often at 38. Like it doesn't make sense. The numbers don't match up. I don't know why the Yankees would be going in this direction. The only inkling of reasoning I could muster is that he plays a lot of games and he stays healthy. So that is a valuable asset, but you're just getting mid for longer.
Right? Like veteran leadership for Ben Rice. Maybe that's useful.
Sure.
But again, you can get that with Santana, I feel like. I don't could be wrong.
Yeah, I agree. And Santana, like, he played on the White Sox last year's guy. Like, he even said, I want to play on a winner. I want to go to a winning team.
No, Santana played on the Twins.
Oh, rather the Twins, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
He was on the Twins. He's like, I want to go to a winning team. I want to maximize the last couple years that I can play well. I think he would go and have a successful year with the Yankees, take advantage of the short right porch, play elite defense. We would see that show up on the field because the Yankees infield, they're prone to mistakes right now. And Santana will help you clean that up a lot, especially in the playoffs when you need to be pitch perfect against elite teams like the Dodgers. So, we'll see what happens. I mean, if you were slightly on the fence of like, let's give Paul Goldschmidt a contract, you've probably heard our arguments and said like, okay, like, yeah, like that makes a lot of sense that we don't want to touch that contract. We don't want to touch that player. But there are 6 good options out there. Like the Yankees have 6 options to choose from that actually make sense for them. Why would they go for the one that doesn't make sense? I don't know. We've seen crazier things happen, but I think it's all smoke and mirrors. I think they're trying to suppress the market. I think that they're trying to force the hand of agents like Boris and say, we're not paying these price tags, and clearly nobody else is either, so you better bring them down, or we're going to go sign somebody else, or we're going to go trade for somebody, and you're going to lose out on the money that we would have given you. So I wouldn't be surprised if Walker lowered the price tag. I wouldn't be surprised if they traded for somebody like a LaMonte Wade Jr., who we really like. But guys, always happy to hear your thoughts down below in the YouTube comment section. Make sure to like, subscribe, 5 stars on Spotify and Apple would be so appreciative. Thank you guys so much for all the support, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.
Perfect.